Just trying to set up the stream a bit here. Not being so nice with me, actually. Oh, hey, Wilson. Bro, we gotta catch up, man. Why are you just chilling on YouTube? Notification squad, let's go. We'll try and get this set up. Hey, Luke. Okay. Hey, Anisha. I'm just trying to set this up. Like, this laptop actually doesn't have my live streaming kind of setup.
Bridge to the other side, just you and I.
More than I want to show. Okay, that works. iPad. There it is. Oh, great. You guys can see my iPad now. Alright, so we're doing some biochemistry because this is the next mind map in my next video. So you can see that there. And let's get another one here. We want PDF.
To the limit, and this is where I'll stay.
Look at it leaking everything. Okay, cool. So this is the textbook I'm going off. This is, what is it called? Leninger's Principles of Biochemistry. So, I did not have to do human disease thing. We had to do biochem, just generally. Of human disease would have been probably better, to be honest. So it sounds like you get the good part. Whereas Arnav, he's not at my place. Alright, let's get some stuff done. Let's make sure this is working though. It is. Fantastic. Okay, we've done the photosynthesis. Hey Godhawk, hey Dorcas Studies, hey Seon. Welcome. I'm actually not writing down the keywords for this because once you get good at this, you can actually keep a track of it in your head. I'm loosely looking at these keywords that I'm seeing here though. Hey Sophia. Hope you're being well. It's been a while. If we want to catch up, definitely can. Be really keen to hear, you know, how things are going, especially. I don't think I've talked to you since I moved cities, so. By the way, I use Oh, nice, Wilson. Nice, Sophia. Yeah, send me a message on Discord. We'll do it. So I should probably show my ChatGPT here as well, just because, like, it helps a lot. I'm trying to speed through this. I don't need to learn it. I just need to like make the mind map for this video. So I just need to learn it enough, not too much. Okay, let's show my ChatGPT so you guys can see it. Here it is. Yeah, fits well enough. You guys can see it. obvious. This is cyclic. And this is non-cyclic. I'm only writing it because it makes it obvious. Okay, this is looking a little too much in one direction, so hopefully there's something here that allows us to move a little bit more to the carbon side. Ah, cool. And then it's like, where does ATP synthesis come in? Here. So I can search it up. When does ATP synthase get used in photosynthesis? Hey, A. It's kind of annoying that's all the way up there, so... Will this be available as a recording? Probably not, just because I keep these live only. The audio is so low. Thank you for telling me. There you go. The audio should be much better now. Oh wow. This whole chapter was just on one part. Alright, let's go. Photo respiration versus photosynthesis. Can I make the concepts bigger? Is that better? It doesn't need to be trustful because it will get validated as I dive deeper and learn about it. I'm trying to just get myself in the right direction at this point. So this is ribulose, which is pretty important. Okay, let's look at this. So I'm just going to leave these here for now. I could dive into them a little bit more, but I don't necessarily need to dive into that too much right now. This video will be turned into a YouTube video. Oh, summary. Cool, moist conditions, efficient and less hot, dry. I could go ahead and learn that. Reducing. Like these could have like drawings next to them. Why do you need plant biochemistry when I'm a mid student? I don't. I am doing this for a YouTube video. Just to demonstrate how you can use this for different subjects. Hey Blitzer. You can record this if you want, you know. But seems like you're not happy about something. I'm happy to talk about it if you want. But I don't actually sell anything for $6,000. Ribisco. Ribisco in photosynthesis. Okay, it's in the Calvin cycle, but I'm not sure how it relates. Hey Gideon, I'm actually doing all of that. I need a diagram that kind of shows me what Rubisco is doing for us. It's a little complex. Oh, here it is. Okay. Rubisco's carboxylase activity. Oh, it occurs in 3 stages. All right, here it is. These experiences with oh, ribulose oxygenase is broken down into rubisco. Cool. Yeah, that's all I need. Rubisco. Is this layer 1 at logic? This is layer 1 and a bit more. Definitely gets into a bit more. Alright, we should be close. Second stage of assimilation. Step 1. And then it's actually glycolysis in reverse as step 2. Again, I'm just kind of adding some things on into here. I would try and integrate it a little bit better if I had the time. Yeah, that's a pretty rough third stage. Yeah, we'll move on from that. Do I read books? No, not too much. I usually read only like short form and audiobooks. Alright, it says something here about it being backwards or something. Cold showers are pretty cool. I just am not doing them. I can't keep up the habit. And I just don't want to. I rather like focus on doing other hard stuff. Some people find that it helps them with, getting started with hard things, but not me so much. AMCC. Nope. Haven't heard of it. Yeah, so I'm skimming to find the important words. Usually what's highlighted or what's mentioned early on in the paragraphs. Indirectly activated by light, that's pretty nuts. I also have a good idea of like what the learning objectives are, so I don't need to read all of this. All right, photo respiration. Mitochondrial. Like mitochondrial respiration consumes O2 and produces CO2, like photosynthesis, and driven by light. This is called photorespiration, a costly side reaction, a result of a lack of specificity in the enzyme rubisco. Okay, cool. So we come in here, we just go like this. We have photorespiration. Would the small details be on a flashcards like layer 3? In this case, you try and make it into layer 3. So you can see I'm trying to connect it as much as possible. And the reason for that is just that, like, there's way too many flashcards you're going to have if you're going to put all this in here. You need to try and really, like, piece it together, see how it connects, to try and reduce it. How have I used ChatGPT? Yeah, I've just asked for it to the relationship because there's too many words here. Just trying to save myself some time. Okay. Photo respiration. Yeah, so it looks like rubisco comes back into play here, but yeah, actually I'm gonna say, like, is rubisco behind C3, C4, and CAM plants? Okay, I'm going to change this up a bit. I'm going to go like rubisco. Seems like it's really important. And draw that line over here to connect that. Yeah, step 3 is here. Photo respiration, connect that together there. Boom. This new video is going to be about how to learn in the layers. All right, I think we're pretty much there. I had a keyword list that I was working off. Yeah, we're there. We're pretty much there. Okay, I'm gonna stop it at this. If anyone's got any questions, I'm gonna stick around for a little bit. It is almost my bedtime, but usually I will call my girlfriend at this point, but she is asleep. So I'm talking to you guys instead. But I'm glad I got the chance. Can you use ChatGPT to help you with the important, broadest concepts to know, like it gives you additional concepts? It can. I just ask it, what's other concepts that are related to what I'm talking about right now? But I typically try and get my keyword list from a textbook, just because they're trying to piece it together a little bit more for you already. Was this a hip shot variation? Yes. It's more like multi-pass, but hip shot is part of it. Yep. Is it possible to get perfect encoding the first time around, or do we need to come back to improve it after some time? Yes. We do need to come back to it after some time. It's very difficult to get it perfectly in your first try. Learning is a recursive process, meaning that it goes around and around and around. How would you go about memorizing specific information like reactions? I try and learn it. So for example here with photosystem 2 and 1, I like actually understand what is going on here. I'm not memorizing that you go H2O to some oxygen and then NaPH to NADPH. So if I look at this, it's like what essentially happens is that you have the light, and this is what I just read, by the way. So you have the light, it hits here, and I have a little bit of physics background, so this helps me as well. But the light provides energy, and that energy is transferred to the electron, which goes from a lower level to a higher level. This has now more electric potential energy that can be transferred and used for chemical reactions. This first happens in photosystem 2, so that electron goes from the lower level up to the higher level, and then that energy is transferred to another electron in actually photosystem 1, which is here, and that takes it up to its higher level as well. And then that actually can allow the reduction of NADP, NAPD to NADPH, and that is because of the hydrogen and electron coming into there, hydrogen, ion, and electron. So, again, I didn't memorize that. It's just from learning it. I think a lot of us we resort too often to memorization far too early, and I wanted to do this example because it's like quite heavy on the it's really it's really quite heavy on what it seems to be like quite memorization heavy. So I'm going to redraw this in my video. I'm going to send this to my producer, YouTube producer, and he'll help me put this together for the video. Burgers. Why is this not transferring? It's kind of annoying. I see there's a few more questions coming through, so I will try and answer them. Multipass is it's a technique inside of the ICA study program, which is very detailed, but it's not. It's just yeah, you don't need it. All right, let's see. Hey guys, I actually just realized I gotta send a voice message to someone. So I'm just gonna do that real quick because I need to do that before I sleep. I'll quickly mute myself and I'll come back to the questions real quick. All right, I just record that voice message. Let's get into these. Some of Brody was thinking about getting up early. My getting up early video today, and I bet sleeping for like an hour during the day, and you might benefit from the focus in the morning without needing to sleep earlier. The main thing is that you'll probably mess with your adenosine levels, and your adenosine levels are what cause sleep drive, like that make you feel sleepy. So like right now, my sleep drive is going up and up. So I will be going to sleep soon. But I don't want to nap often because it will interrupt that, especially if it's past like 3 p.m. That's my thoughts on that. Anos, also one more thing. I'm a person in the server, and I'm curious as how many people like you have huge topics with small mind maps. Like his master's mind map had 500 pages, but he had little keywords. So the main part that comes from that is that a lot of it becomes obvious. Like, for example, I don't need to write down here everything to do with like NAPDH, G3P, G6P, Rubisco, carboxylase. Like, all those words are part of understanding like how light-dependent reactions may work, or how photosynthesis or cellular respiration work. Like, I understand the differences and the similarities between photorespiration and cellular respiration. So there's not any point here for me to write down all those details because I already understand it, and it's captured by how the information is related here. So I actually need to draw an arrow here. So that's a big part, and that being able to like break it down into that thing is also correlated with being able to break down the material into something simpler and a deeper understanding. But just because you write less doesn't mean that you understand it as well. You have to understand it strongly, and then you typically notice that you won't have to write down as much. Layers of Learning is my favorite video. Fantastic. When the next live be? I don't know when the lives will be. Shreyanth, I don't study a lot anymore because I'm not in doing my studies, and I'm doing a lot more work. So typically when I do something like this, it's a lot more rare. I post the videos more often now. But I'm always on Instagram. I like to chat there, and I'm getting back into it a little bit more. I'm not sure if people can notice that there is a time lapse that's going on in the background. How many hours your study session? This one is as long as the stream has been going on. Are you sticking with the time, or sometimes it extends? It often extends. Learning takes a long time. Is multi-class significantly better than hipshot? Yeah. Please, the grind mnemonic are actions we aid us in the higher order learning, and would love to see how you manipulate them. Yeah, so there's a lot of parts here going in terms of the grind. You know, we've got the grouping, the relationships in here, and interrelatedness, and we've got the visuals in there as well. So there's a few parts going into here. I will clean it up when I put this together, so in for the video, which I will. But this is the rough version. What do you recommend to high school students? Because in the way, we are limited to understanding concepts which you might learn later, but also hinders our understanding in high school. I would learn a little bit more. I would push yourself, learn that extra bit that actually makes the things make sense. That might be like what's taught in year 12, but you're in year 10 or year 11, and just put it together. It like makes things way easier, and you're gonna have to learn it later anyway. And it actually makes it easier for you to answer the harder questions, because most of the harder questions require a bit of abstract thinking to predict what you're going to be taught the next year. And if you just know that stuff, it helps. Does anyone read lips? Hey, Trisha. And us, I'm going to be studying and listening to this. It's not every day. Answer questions in your time zone. Once in a lifetime opportunity. Yeah, feel free to answer questions. It's all good. I will be jumping off soon though, unfortunately. Okay. What do you do after making a mind map? Well, today I'll be sleeping, but usually I give it a little bit of time, and then I come back to it to do some active recall. So I'll think about like, okay, what do I understand about the topic? I'll teach it to myself in my brain, and then I will look at the mind map and see what I've forgotten. And then I'll try and add more to it as I deepen the knowledge. So often I'll like find something and I'll be like, okay, this area here, like it doesn't quite make sense. Let's ask a question to ChatGPT or Google and then dive more and learn more about it. And then I'll add more to the mind map. I'm often adding more and more to it. Do you recommend buying an iPad even though if you have a touchscreen laptop? It's up to you. I like having it separate because it means that my laptop can have so much on one screen, which is what you're seeing. And then I have my iPad, which is just like a piece of paper, and I can just have enough drawing space there. So the screen real estate does help, but I understand that financing can be a restrictive thing. So for a long time, I just had paper, so it's okay. On the keyword questions, is a part of chunking and relating, basically. Is that something with a generation effect? Yep, absolutely correct. Richard Zhang. Out of curiosity, am I done with med school? Seems like it's been a while. Yeah, I'm pretty much done with it. All right. Does mind mapping actually work? I wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. I tried doing pre-study on a topic and studied a lot on the topic. I did horribly in that test. Yeah, so there can be a lot of reasons for why that is. You know, like for example, what's an example? Let's say I kick a soccer ball and I thought about it and I prepared a lot into kicking that soccer ball one time, which is like I bought the right soccer boots, I like practiced putting my soccer boots on, I thought about kicking the soccer ball and kicking into the goal all the time. And then I even like practiced a certain drill where you're supposed to kick the ball every single time into the goal at different distances and stuff. And then on the day when I had to do penalty shootout at the end of soccer match, I missed. Does that mean that all my preparation was useless and that it didn't help? Like, it's not necessarily always the case that it means that everything you did was useless. And the problem is that when it comes to study, it's actually really hard to know if what you're doing has helped or not. And that's why you have to have a reflective process to be able to understand more about like learning science, which I share a lot on this channel, and actually how about your learning. So mind mapping has a lot of research backing it. It's just that it's a skill that needs to be learnt, and it does take time. Whoa, that's pretty cool. I'm trying to get through all these questions, but I think someone sent through a super chat. Whoa, thank you SA. There's a question here with it though, I think. I don't want to miss it. Okay, I'll just jump to it. How do you remember details when doing a mind map? My mind map is always broad. Feel free to add a little bit more to that if you'd like. So with details, as you can see here, again, I'm trying to understand them as deeply as possible. Like this here is just here as more of a reference, but I've understood like how the system works in terms of the electrons going from a lower level, takes them to a higher level, which gives it this electric potential energy, and that is allowed to be transferred into kind of like allowing for a chemical reaction to occur, like H2O being taken down to O2. So I want to try as much as possible to understand why something happens the way that it does. That will greatly help with remembering details. But if I cannot add logic to it, if I cannot add a story or an analogy to it, then I will put that onto a flashcard. And actually, the next video that I'm editing right now is talking about that. It talks about how do you use analogy stories to help with this. With your mind map being broad, I would just dive deeper and ask more particular questions about how the information is related and dive into those nuances there. Yeah, I hope that helps. Thank you for the support. I really, really appreciate it. I'm not writing a live at all, expecting this, but you guys have been great. Like I haven't done this in a while, and this is definitely quite some fun. I think this is probably one of the biggest live streams that I've run. 53 odd of us here, and hopefully you guys are getting value. That's the most important part. If you're not, I completely understand. Like, save your time. Time is important. But if you are getting value, let me know in the chat. Yeah, let me know. Are you finding this valuable? If you are, I'd love to hear that. Just because I might try and do these in the future. If they are valuable, yeah. Okay, let's get back to some of the questions though. Can you talk about how retrieval can help future encoding sessions going deeper? Would you retrieve after every encoding session, and how would you go about it? So retrieval is important because we need to remember what we have learned, and us attempting a retrieval session can consolidate that information and make it more sticky, and it is something that inherently needs to happen, otherwise it will just disappear. We need to test the relationships that we've been building in our mind. My typical way is that if I was studying this, I create this mind map, and then the next day I'll try and teach it, and I'll be teaching it to an imaginary person. And then after I've said everything about it, I would kind of critique and reflect about how well have I taught it, in my opinion. And then I'll look at my mind map and compare about what I've missed and what I did not emphasize as I should have. That's the primary way that I'll go about it. If you're studying for a test or an exam, then I'll dive deeper into doing other sort of techniques and interleaving strategies. So for example, I might be just like doing practice questions or practice exams, for example. Okay, let's dive into the next one. Am I doing aim shoot cycle? Yep, definitely a part of it. Can you elaborate on the layers, how to use it more effective ways? That will be the next video, but just to really break it down, you want to have your core backbone, and then you want to have the concepts that extract from that, and then your important details, and then the smaller details coming out of that. So you can generally see that happening here from the main part and spreading out. Okay, how to get first principles understanding without going into details too much. So the fact is that if you are trying to get a first principles understanding, like, that means no details because it's first principles. So I would focus really on understanding the concepts more than the keywords. Like, for example, here I really focus on, like, what does electron flow really tell me about? Well, it's the thing that underpins, in a first principles point of view, light dependent reactions and carbon fixation reactions. So that was me doing a real example of that. Yeah. What's biochemistry? I'm only in year 9. Something that you don't need to worry about for a very long time, and hopefully never. Biochemistry is biology and chemistry coming together. And it's hard. Okay, Shreyanth, in class, should I focus on relating and grouping and ignore writing anything down that I don't relate or simplify or group, even though it means I'm missing a considerable amount of information? Biggest tip here, record the session or get someone else's notes, because they would have written down everything, and then you can consolidate that with your existing notes later on after the lesson, and just make sure if you missed anything. That way you're protecting yourself. How do you reflect on your learning process? I believe I do have a video on this if someone else can find it, but it's all about Kolb's experiential cycle, because that allows you to have a learning event and actually learn from it. And one of the most important things, if you want to improve in something, you need to have data that you can actually look at and analyze and then make a difference. If I try and think about an analogy, if you are trying to lose weight or gain weight and you never weigh yourself, you will never know if you're progressing or not. And you won't know about what you're doing and like the changes you're making to your diet and going to the gym, if that's actually helping or not with your loss of weight. So, or gain of weight. So you need to have some data to collect. And the way that you collect data about your learning is that you sit down and you ask yourself, how did I learn this process? How did I learn this concept? And did that go well or did it not go well? And why? And how do I know that? And as you go through that process, that helps a lot. Okay. Do you teach yourself as you mind map? Yes. That's the whole point of the mind mapping. If so, what are the most essential concepts that revolve around your teaching technique and yield the most amount of connections? For this, Gavin, I'm probably just going to recommend to watch one of my most recent videos on how to mind map. That helps out a lot. Brody asks, do I mew? Yes, a lot, because it's actually good oral posture and tongue posture. So I try and do that as much as possible. I don't know how many people realize, but I do have Invisalign on, so it's also an important part of that. Okay. Trisha, I am studying anatomy and physiology at the moment, and for some things, I later realized that I've been learning the wrong information. It's made me a little paranoid about whether I'm learning correctly or incorrectly. I'd love some tips and advice about this. Yeah, so, I mean, really the most important thing here is like, it does still mean that you're learning, because in the learning process, it inherently means that you're going to not know stuff and you're going to actually learn things wrong. And when you realize that, that's the correction. And so there's this thing called the hypercorrection effect, which says that like if you learn something incorrectly the first time, when you realize it, that like sticks out to you. You know, it makes you a little bit paranoid, a little bit stressed. And that is good, because it actually now means that that's gonna be much more sticky for you going into the future. So the tip that I would have here is to actually like acknowledge that those corrections are good, because it means that you're learning this thing right now rather than realizing in your exam that you've learned the wrong information. So be grateful, you know, for the fact that like you know this before your exam. And then the other part is like, I would recommend that just to find these things more often, you just look at more resources and sources of information to validate and verify if what you're learning is correct. So for me, that's going to Google, using ChatGPT, looking at multiple textbooks, and looking at the same pieces of information, but what they may say about that particular concept in each resource. So that is what is called syntopical reading, and I talk about that in one of my recent videos as well. Okay, Rishu, sometimes even when I chunk the information, I still do not get good enough retention. However, when I focus on creating relationships, I tend to remember a lot more, but the map gets hard to review. That one's a little tricky, because you have to dive into like what type of chunks are you trying to create here, and maybe the chunks just aren't good enough. And those relationships that you're creating, you need to try and find a way to turn those into chunks. But the biggest thing that I recommend here is that, again, you're doing Kolb's exponential cycle, and you're writing about your you're writing and reflecting about how you've been learning and seeing what's working and what's not working. It's a little tricky what you've uncovered there, but that requires experimentation to figure out, and reflection. What time do I brush my teeth when I go to bed? Which is pretty soon. Fart tonight. I studied a lot on the test, and when I was giving the test, I thought my answers were correct and I was confident, but I got at least B, and I ended up failing the test. What went wrong? So the first thing that I'd recommend is getting a copy of your test, so you can actually see where you were confident and you select the wrong answer, because that's particularly the best point where you can, again, gain data on where this confidence is being incorrectly built. So there's so many reasons for why this could be happening, but the thing that I would say just here to really focus on is, if you're able to, in your practice tests, just pinpoint where you're getting, where you feel that confidence, and understand where that's coming from. Like, why do you feel confident? And then finding ways to like verify if you're correct, like to how do you double check and such. That's going to be really important, because right now the confidence is misplaced. And again, that comes down to spending a lot of time, reflecting and thinking about like where's the confidence coming from. And I will always have a lot of ways to like double check my work, like maybe multiple methods if it's in maths. So for example, if you're working with like quadratic equations, you can make a graph, and the graph you can use the graph to like verify certain calculations in your equations as well. But I try and have as many steps that allow me to catch out on errors. Every single step, I need to understand why it happens. If I don't, then that's a weakness, and then I know that's probably an area where I will make a mistake. As another tip, you just don't want to like, you very, very rarely just want to accept something as is. You almost always want to dive deeper and understand the why. And if you have that, then you won't be just like putting blind trust in something. And that's often where that issue can come as well. So I hope that helps. It is a little tricky, but you've got this, you're in the right place. If you keep working on this, you will start to see that traction. Okay. Cool. Thank you so much again, SA. Really appreciate it. You definitely don't need to do the donations, but I mean, again, I appreciate it a lot. It definitely helps, especially that I'm coming back to YouTube, putting a lot more into this, and there are costs associated with having this YouTube channel as well for editing and things. Will I be doing streams often? I'm not sure. Yeah, but it seems like you guys have been finding it useful, so maybe I'll try and see what I can do. If you feel confused while doing mind maps, that's a good thing. It means that you are piecing it together, and actually it's a reflection of how you feel about the topic. So if you aren't able to connect it together yet, it means you don't understand the topic. Once you understand that topic, it becomes much easier to put it together. So if anything, it's allowing you to realize early on in the process that there are issues right now with how you understand the topic, and you have an opportunity now to fix that. So it's a really, really useful tool. This app is called Concepts. Hey Sam, good to see you. It's been a while. All right, Gideon, please, in using the questions to help me with a relationship priority, if I know nothing about the topic, am I prone to wayward questions? Not really, because you are starting from a certain point of not knowing anything. And so any question is actually going to just drive you towards that journey of understanding it more. You can use AI to ask the questions of like, why is this thing important? What is its function? And how does this relate to that? And that can help as well. But you always want to try and do that yourself as well by looking at the content first to try and generate an answer of your own before using AI. Okay. I missed a question asked about answer writing. I did miss that, sorry. I don't know where it is now. Any tips for studying biochem? Oh my gosh, watch this stream. Because this is biochem. How are keywords different from concepts? So keywords can include concepts, but keywords can also include small details. And those are just, again, going to be on the edges of your mind map, or they're just put on the flashcard. How is laziness different from procrastination? Procrastination is more of like a phenomenon where we have certain tendencies and habits, and they can be exploited by various means in terms of distractions, and that can get the better of us. Whereas laziness, I believe, is more of a mindset, and often it comes just from a lack of clarity and purpose, and a goal. So that's not necessarily related to procrastination, because actually in a lot of times, like, you have a goal, you have purpose, you have clarity, but you still procrastinate. So I think laziness is often, like, when people label themselves as lazy, it's not that they're necessarily lazy, it's just that they don't have clarity yet. And once you're able to get that clarity in terms of, like, knowing the certain direction or goal that you want to work towards, things become a lot more easier. And it's very hard to find that, that thing that you want to work on, but you don't need to find that thing. Like, you don't need to be dead set on, like, becoming a doctor before you can do anything. Like, just focus on some goal that you can choose for yourself in a month's time, 3 months time, whatever, and just put your energy towards that. And that can add a lot more. It gets rid of a lot of the decision fatigue that there is when there's that overwhelm that comes from having many decisions. So I would say that helps. Okay. How do you build prior knowledge? You learn more. How do you improve maths? I would just apply lots of things that you're learning from this channel. Yeah, there's a lot. What iPad am I using? I'm using an iPad Pro 12.9 inch, I think. Any tips to study faster? Watch this channel. Could you say encoding techniques? I know about chunking, analogies, and examples. Yes, those are big ones. And then mind mapping and inquiry-based learning. What tip would you have for someone who failed their test? I think I went through your question before. But again, Kolb's exponential cycle. And reflecting and reflecting during doing practice questions and practice exams to figure out, like, why exactly you got a question wrong. Okay. What would you recommend for improving expression of answers to FAQs? I find that I tend to lose marks on that despite memorizing models, answers, and such. So, here's the thing. When it comes to improving expression of answers, the problem is that a lot of people believe that is the issue, is that I'm not able to articulate myself well enough. That's actually not the issue. The issue is that you don't know the content as well as you think you do. Because, I'll give you an example. If you got a PhD student to take your exam, like, what is the likelihood, let's say you're in high school, and this is your year 10 exam, just as an example. If you got the PhD student to do it, they have not perhaps studied this material in a long time. In fact, they haven't even looked at your textbooks or all of these practice exam papers that you've done in the past. They may have never seen them before. They might be from a different country, actually, just studying this stuff. So they may have never been anywhere near close to this. So they take your exam and they ace it because they're a PhD student. I lost these questions, and I lost my train of thought because of that. So their expression of the answers is going to be completely fine, and what that means is that, like, it's not down to, like, studying the examiner's criteria for answering questions. Like, that definitely helps, but it's not the root. So it's not the root solution to this. We need to be able to, like, develop our learning process so strong that we are able to predict the correct expression required here. And for all of the examiners who make your exam, they're pretty agreed on the same expression, because they all know the topic to a very strong degree, like to a university level. So if you were to also learn it to the strong university level, you probably end up on the same expression. And you probably realize why it's so important to mention, like for example, when you're working with enzymes, that there's a complementary fit. Like that word complementary is very important. Otherwise, you're not expressing the true nature of what's going on. And when you miss out on these certain keywords, it's typically a reflection that you don't know the importance of that keyword in relation to that topic. And so you want to develop your learning process so that you can understand the relationships between everything that you're learning deeper, and that will help you far more with the expression of your answers, to mention the things that they want to hear. Most of the time, it's down to that. You need to learn the topic more deeper and to a better degree. The expression itself and your English skills is rarely the limiting factor. But everyone focuses on that because it seems like that's the issue, because that's what you're seeing on the surface level, but it's actually a deeper cause. It's built up by all of your learning from before you attend class to when you're in class and when you're after class. Like all the hard work is there. That's where it needs to be focused. Okay. Do I have any tips for Adelaide Uni's MMI interview for med? Well, firstly, congrats. It's been a long time since I've focused on med interviews, but the biggest thing is I suggest is just to show more about your like decision-making process. And if you're doing any of the personal questions, just understanding like how that has shaped who you are. They don't care about like what activities you've done. They care about how those activities have shaped you. But that's for the personal questions. Do you know what we should do if we're learning something, but then it doesn't make sense because it contradicts with something we learned earlier? Ooh, great. That's a great thing. I love when that happens. You just dive into that more and figure out where is that contradiction. It's very satisfying when that happens, because it's like, what? That doesn't make sense. Like, why is this thing and this thing like not working? And it's like, oh, there we go. And do you know why this is satisfying? Because when you find that contradiction, that's actually where most people get stuck. And that's where they create the trick questions in your exam. So if you're able to get past that, you now understand that trick question, and now that trick question won't get you. And I remember in my year 12 physics exam, it was like, the content was easy, but there was trick questions everywhere. But I saw them every time, and so I'm just like, I see what you're doing. You're not going to get me. And then I would just, get the question right. And physics was my best subject. I ended up topping in the state for that. So I'm pretty sure like I got a perfect score, if not 1 mark off for that exam. But physics was that one subject where like, at least for my curriculum, you had to dive very deeply into understanding why something occurs, and that would be beyond the curriculum itself, so that you don't get caught out by just taking something as is and on surface value and never questioning it, because as soon as you do that, you put yourself at risk. So I always recommend to learn something a little bit deeper so you understand why something is the way that it is. Okay, we're going strong, guys. I do probably have to go to bed soon. I said I was going to be to bed like much earlier, but this is fun, and I think you guys are getting a lot of value from this, so I just want to keep it going for a bit more. Okay. Any tips you would give around maintaining self-discipline and keeping a good study habit without going overboard and burning out? So again, I think it's important to understand like, why are you doing this? Because you don't have to. You can just drop out. And when you sit with yourself and start asking that question, and maybe you journal it, you reflect on it, you can find where this drive and internal motivation comes from, the intrinsic motivation, because that's really what helps the most. But if you're so focused on doing the thing itself, you often lose touch of why you're doing this, and then that makes it easier to burn out. But one of the biggest things as well is that burnout comes from just not seeing the fruits of your labor a lot of the time. So I would try and find ways of making things more exciting, more fun. It's actually one of the big principles of productivity itself, is just try and find ways to make it exciting, fun. You can add some variation into it with studying with other people, or gamifying it a little bit. But there's many angles to this. Number one, it's like your intrinsic motivation, your drive, your purpose, your vision, and why you're actually doing this, because really you could just not. Even if you have your parents, just always telling you have to, and society tells you have to, it's like you really could not. But it's important enough for you to stay away from those negative consequences. So you got to ask yourself why at some point, because you are your own person as well. So it's important to be able to own that. And then the second part is the actual like techniques and stuff around self-discipline. But these are more band-aids than anything. The intrinsic motivation is most important.